For the Nigerian case study of the donor action work stream under the Action for Empowerment and Accountability research project A4EA, we studied partnership to engage, reform, and learn, a project funded by UK FCDO and World Bank's SFTAS project. And we studied this project in states where the two projects were implemented, and that's in Kaduna and Jigawa states. These two states are both similar because they are in the north, but they also have different contextual factors. While Kaduna is a more cosmopolitan and diverse state, with, which is more prone to conflict and violence, Jigawa is a more monolithic and stable state that is less prone to violent conflict. So we then studied the implementation of the two projects in the two states and to understand how multiple donors intervention overlap in the same spaces and the kind of interaction effect that they produce. And this study is different from previous works on similar subjects that usually focus discretely on evaluation of single projects or projects that are implemented in the same state by different donors. But not much is done to understand the actual combined effect of projects that were supported by different donors that have different approaches in their programming and delivery. So the study came out with the findings that when donors operate in the same space and their actions overlap, they are likely to produce interaction effects that follow three patterns. So using the interaction effect lens, we realize that one possibility is that there is synergy between the projects that were implemented by different donors. If in the case of the programs that we study, we realize that the pre-existing intervention by PERL laid the foundation in budget planning for SFTAS, and it enables the state to bid and meet the eligibility criteria to access the incentives provided by SFTAS. So at the level of budget planning, the two programs reinforced each other. But once you move to another layer, which is procurement, it shows that the kind of progress that was recorded in Jigawa was really not capitalized on by SFTAS because unlike PERL, that is a more adaptive program, SFTAS is a more follows a generic template that applies to all the 33 states, irrespective of their contextual differences. So while in Jigawa, bottom-up approach to procurement oversight appear to have gone ahead of many states across the Federation. The generic template provided in disbursement linked indicator 6, which has to do with procurement transparency, require the state to review or pass procurement law that follows uniform templates across the 36 states. So by so doing, the generic template that was provided fell far short of the progress already recorded in Jigawa as a result of PERL's intervention, which produced a different kind of interaction effect, which appeared to be a missed opportunity and it's also a disconnect. So there are three patterns of interaction effect that we came up with. One is synergy, which we observed at the level of budget planning. The second layer is parallel play, whereby the two projects, the two programs appear to be running on parallel lines without really touching on each other. The third one is the one of disconnect, which tend to undermine the progress already recorded by the other, or at least fail to amplify the progress that were already on ground. And that was the case of procurement reform in Jigawa, where the law that were prescribed by SFTAS did not take into account, did not take on board those innovative models of bottom-up procurement oversight that were already in place in Jigawa. Whereas in Kaduna State, access to procurement information as required by SFTAS provided opportunity for civic actors to be able to access procurement information that they would not have accessed otherwise. So by and large, the interaction effect lens enables us to understand, even beyond donor projects, sectorial intervention by government. We just look at it in a siloed form, whereby we rarely look in depth into how programs or projects implemented in one sector can have consequential impact on the programs that are implemented in other sectors. So beyond donor action, beyond donor project implementation, even for governance and government generally, I think this calls for a more rigorous review in the design and implementation of policies, programs, and projects with a view to looking at beyond just idea of interministerial coordination or interministerial harmonization, to go behind the curtain and look deeper on what actually happens at the level of implementation, at the level of outcome, at the level of impact, such that it may follow the path of synergy. If that is the case, that works well. It may follow the parallel play pattern, or it may follow the disconnect pattern. So from the design stage, we should be able to, designers of policies and programs should be able to anticipate and project and make necessary provisions so that if the result tilts towards more of synergy and less of disconnect, then the results will be probably more useful than when most of the outcomes move towards the disconnect domain. So these are some of the major findings that we came up with in the Nigerian case and in the donor action work stream in Nigeria. Rather than follow a typical siloed model that just looked at programs discretely and look at their results framework and see whether they have met their targets, this study enables us to see the importance and the value of seeing more broadly the kind of interactions that can be produced when policies and programs are implemented in the same space. And this can follow three patterns. Synergy. So when they reinforce each other, probably that will be a desired outcome. That will be useful. But when it followed the second pattern, which is parallel play, it means that they are just moving, they are not really adding or subtracting from each other, which is also not really desirable, but might not be counterproductive, might not be destructive. The third part, the third element of interaction effect is that we move along the line of disconnect, whereby one program or project or policy can actually run over another and roll back the gains of the other. So this different way of seeing is useful, not only at the level of design and the implementation, even at the level of evaluation, so that we could be able to see how work out modalities to minimize disconnect and amplify synergy. And that will be a very useful outcome in the end.